dollar and the shilling are not doing very well, or rather the shilling is not doing well against the dollar lately. And of course, diaspora remittances are some of the major contributor to our foreign income earners. So today we are bringing on board Roslyn Jogu to just have a conversation on these matters and more concerning Kenyans in the larger diaspora regions in the country, just to shed light on what needs to be focused on right now, especially given that there might be an increase in taxation when it comes to those remittances. Thank you so much for joining us today, Roslyn.
Going children who end up dropping out of school, and cognizant of the fact then children's control.
Can you hear me? Roslyn Jogu is joining us just to discuss diaspora and affairs, and just taking a look at some of the issues that are coming up lately, given the performance of the shilling against the dollar and the pound, and other issues of concern such as insurance and welfare of diasporans, as well as mobile consular services, which is expected. Roslyn, if you can hear me, thank you so much for joining us here. We also have Bernard Kavu also joining us. Thank you so much for joining us. If you can hear me, please confirm.
Thank you for inviting.
Okay, let's just start off with diaspora remittances. Are you feeling the pinch of the harsh economic times compared to locals here in Kenya?
All right. Is that for me or for the peers?
For you.
Right. Okay. Let me just start by saying that when it comes to the cost of living, it's really not just a Kenyan issue. The entire world has been affected by this. Here in the UK and in Europe in general, this was triggered by the war, the Russian war in Ukraine, which pushed the cost of oil up. And once fuel goes up, everything else goes up. So yes, we've all been experiencing tough times economically. Although, of course, the governments have been taking steps to mitigate the high cost of living. But as we speak, yes, everybody has to tighten their belts. The only thing I would say is when you look at it like what you just say, when you compare, say, the British pound with the Kenya shilling, the pound has been appreciating significantly. We've had the pound value rise vis-a-vis the Kenyan shilling. Well, why is that significant? That's good news, really, for those who are earning the hard currencies, because it means they can invest more back home. The pound, the dollar goes a long way. It gives you more money back home. So if you are spending it back home, it's good news. If you are spending it here, out here in the diaspora, then it might not really make a big difference.
Thank you, Mr. Kavi, for shedding light on that. And I'd like to bring in PS Diaspora Affairs, Roslyn Jogu. Elizabeth Akinyi, I do believe, is now going to speak to us. We shall get the PS Diaspora Affairs later on. Elizabeth Akinyi, explain to us what you feel in terms of being able to send money home in today's economy. Is it a benefit, as Bernard has put it, as given the situation with the current shilling value as opposed to the pound?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm in Finland, and what Bernard is saying is true. When we send money from Finland, we are using euros. It's, of course, better than when we used to send it before. 1 euro is about 153 Kenyan shillings, and that's better because you get to do more things with the little amount. So the higher currencies countries that are using it, the dollars, the pounds, the euros, are better when sent back home, but as compared to what the Kenyans are getting. So yeah, I think it's better.
All right, now I'd like to talk about diasporans' affairs. A lot of times, not limited to Europe, even in the Far East and also in, the certain pockets, and particularly in the Gulf, we're having diasporans' affairs coming up every now and then. What is the situation, Bernard, today in terms of government's efforts to ensure that Kenyans who are outside the country are well taken care of, and also do understand that the PS is having discussions on mobile consular services? How can this be a game changer?
Okay. Again, I didn't get whether that was directed to me or to the PS. As far as diaspora affairs welfare is concerned, yes, we've had several cases of Kenyans who have been stranded in diaspora. We've had deaths in diaspora, and I would really like to thank an organization, a company known as Diaspora Insurance, which has teamed up with Diaspora County 48 to try and elevate the problem of Kenyans who have found themselves in distress in diaspora. Just recently, we had to evacuate a Kenyan who was stranded in Abu Dhabi. She was suffering from cancer, and we were able to evacuate her back home because she didn't have a job, and through Diaspora Insurance and County 48, we managed to take her home. Her name is Fatuma. Actually, this morning she texted me to say she's doing okay. She's back to hospital for further checkup. She's suffering from leukemia. We've similarly been able to work with the government, the Department or State Department of Diaspora Affairs, when it comes to issues concerning Kenyans abroad. And we are very excited here in the UK because the PS is visiting with us. We just had a meeting on Sunday actually. And one of the things she emphasized on was the need for Kenyans in diaspora to take up insurance because our old tested procedure of doing things of Rambe fundraising seems to have been overtaken by time. And now it's time that we all considered going for insurance so that if something happens to us, either here in diaspora or back home, then we've got cover for that. So on that front, so far so good. We are having a very good working relationship with the government, and to enhance this, back in May, we actually traveled to Kenya to make a proposal on ways of insuring Kenyans, providing them evacuation, repatriation kind of cover. And that discussion we had with the government. And recently, the government has started looking after the migrants. There is the Kenyan Migrant Management Bill, which is now being pushed through Parliament to take care of all Kenyan migrants who are living. So there is a lot that has been happening in that front, and we are very happy about it. And it's in this spirit that we are saying we want to bring the Kenyan diaspora together. So come December, for example, we are planning to have a summit just for the Kenyans Diaspora County 48 members because Kenya will be celebrating 60 years of independence. So we want to meet in Nairobi at our motherland, and we want every Kenyan who lives in diaspora to be there. Let's meet and greet, and let's discuss our affairs face to face. So we are really looking forward to this summit where because we have members from all over the world, from Australia, Oceania, Middle East, South America, North America, Europe, Asia, all over. So we are looking forward to having a sit down in Nairobi to charter the way forward for our Kenyan diaspora.
Hey Bernard, I'd like now to bring in Elizabeth Mokonen, who is joining us from Finland, and just get her views also on the possibility of these mobile consular services. What are some of the challenges the diasporans in Finland are facing, and how would this be a solution to them?
Thank you so much. Just recently, we were supposed to be having in Finland and the Nordic, we were supposed to have our consular services here from the ambassador who sits in Sweden. The ambassador who sits in Sweden covers about 8 countries, the Nordic and Baltic. And the meeting was cancelled last minute, like 1-2 days to the event. And I would be wrong because I know that there are people in Finland will be listening to me and the Nordic. And there were no reasons for this. We have still not gotten reason for this. And as much as we want to appreciate there could be some challenges that would come, we also appreciate if some of these things could be said earlier, because we live in different parts of Finland, for example. Some people had booked hotels to come to the capital city and all other things. So I think the challenge of communication is still there. These are the challenges we are still finding. And if these challenges of communication could actually be, because in Finland and in the Nordic, in the Baltic, we have leaders. We have Kenyan leaders in these countries. For example, we have Kefiso in Kenya, we have Kenya Welfare Associations, and we have other leaders. If these communications would be given on time, so we would avoid these things. These things, when you're asking about how does this feel, it feels like sometimes people are losing trust with the government, and it's just because of information, something small that could be discussed earlier, communicated earlier, and people would get to know, and then avoid some back and forth that are now going in. So if I would tell you about Finland right now, in the Nordic area, people are really disappointed because of the meeting that was just cancelled. It's not the first meeting. It's like a series of meetings that have been cancelled, whereas we are also saying that the councillor is trying. We have had Njogu come in, and I think from the time she stepped into office, she's just been moving in welfare issues, evacuating people and doing things. And we have seen her doing a lot, but I think there's still a lot more that needs to be done, especially in the areas of communication.
All right. Bernard, can you relate to some of these feelings of disappointment in the Kenyan government when it comes to consistency and follow through?
Generally speaking, I would say the government, as far as looking at the whole mobile consular services, I think the way the whole process was unveiled was very welcome in many parts of the world. I remember it started in the US, and remember in the US, the country is massive, so people had always to go. There are only 3 consulates, the embassy in New York, in Washington, and then New York and Los Angeles. So people had to travel these long distances. So when the mobile consular services were introduced, this was really a very welcome development. This is one of the things we have been pushing for as Diaspora County 48, where we said we needed the services to be taken closer to the people. And we want this to be extended, not just for going to collect documents like passports, IDs, birth certificates. We want this to be extended now when it comes to voter registration and also polling stations. So when the time comes for the next general elections, we want this same system to be applied for voter registration. So those who live in diaspora should be able to register to vote where they are. The services need to be taken to them. And also the polling stations also need to be decentralized so people can register. So yes, all in all, it has been a very welcome development. It's a very big step, taking services to the people. But of course, there will be hiccups here and there, teething problems here and there. So meetings will be set, they could be cancelled for different reasons, and I think that can be addressed, and that should not really really paint any negative picture on the importance of these mobile services In fact, it's the fact that people are now looking forward to them. That's why they get agitated when they get cancelled. So I think it's good to keep the momentum, reach out. I know the PS is just now, she reached out. In the UK, this was the third one I attended. The first one was in Reading. We had the consular services there, then Glasgow, and now we were in Coventry. That's in England. I believe the PS will also be going to
All right, we seem to have lost our connection to our guests abroad. In the UK, we have Bernard and Kaviu, Diaspora 48, as well as Elizabeth Mokonen, our Kenyan in Diaspora. We shall take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue on with this conversation on Diaspora Affairs.